It's so eye-opening. It's interesting. I've taken so many certification courses for different kinds of health coaching, whether it's blood chemistry or being a massage therapist. I mean, each of these are $20,000 in themselves, and there's never any business training.
Yeah.
So you get out, and I'll see about over 60% of people that took the course never do anything because their fate of where they end without working on their money mindset and learning business is that they go back to getting a job.
Yes.
I met so many health coaches that are well-trained, passionate, would love to help someone, and they're not doing it. They're actually doing the same job that they have been doing forever.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. Really excited for another round of Isaac Ho. And listen, Isaac is the man. He's been on the show a few times, and the feedback every time I go hang out with Isaac on the show has been fantastic. And I just had to get him back on because we touched on another interesting topic. And we're going to do this more often because Isaac is quickly transforming into my new hero. And if you don't know a little bit about Isaac, he's been a health coach for 17 years. He was the owner of a fitness therapy and coaching company. And one of the things that's amazing to me is he works with clients that he commands $30K to $65K health coaching clients. That's amazing. It's something that is a dream of ours. So for us to have the ability to do this, we have to have a lot of things in our favor, including our mindset around money and just our value and the ability to sell. Isaac is a master at both of those. And as always, the cool thing about me and him hanging out is he brings out a side of me that I neglect to share, not because of anything, but just I guess maybe I'm too humble and a little bashful about stuff. And I usually just put the spotlight on my guest, and somehow Isaac always flips it around on me. And I divulge a lot of interesting things that I don't think I've shared with you over the last 3 years. So I'm really excited that he brings that out of me and tells us a little bit about my journey, my story, and really gets me out there a little bit more than I've always been comfortable with. So I thank Isaac for that. So as always, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. It keeps me getting amazing guests just like Isaac. And also, as you know, in the background, courses coming out. And if anybody wants any questions about it, how to obtain it, go to Omar at OmarCumberbatch.com. I'll give you all the details there. Let's jump into the show. Hey, Isaac, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Omar. Thanks for having me, man. Love being here with you.
Yeah, now listen, I think that we're going to have a regular conversation about a lot of different things just because, we connect on so many different things around the health coaching space. So, Isaac, I'm really excited to talk about this part of the health coaching journey because I'm going through that myself. And a really interesting part of it is the fact that we as health coaches have such a difficult time making enough money to do health coaching full time. So I'm not sure if your experience with this has brought you through that as well, because I know that you deal with a lot of clients. And I'm just really excited to open up this topic because, again, we want to live in our passion. We want to do what we want to do, and that's help others in the health space. So I'm really excited about this show and some of the tips that we can give health coaches who are looking to do the same.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to have this conversation. To me, it is one of the most important conversations that health coaches really need to accept because being passionate about anything, being pulled to anything, especially health, which is such an impactful area. But if we were an artist and we never cared about how to make art work in the world or how finance or how money moved in the world, then we'd be the definition of a starving artist. And I've met so many health coaches in my life, and I started being a health coach at 17. So to put perspective on that, I'm 34 now, so I've been a health coach for 17 years, and it's kind of crazy. But I think one of the things that will come out of this is I've seen so many health coaches come and go, and I almost came and went. I think on one podcast I explained to you like how I'm even still here. It's an act of grace that I'm still practicing as a health coach and I get to do this full time. And I I tell you, some of the most talented people I've seen, the most caring people I've seen, just struggle to a point of tears with trying to make enough money that they go, I know I meant to do this, but how do I actually make this work? And
Mhm.
I'm super grateful that we get to talk about this because it's a massive problem. Because if you have all these gifts, but you can't take care of yourself, then you're unhealthy. And then the lack of health just keeps persisting in the world. And I know you said you're going through this experience yourself, kind of in your own unique way. Um, and so I think, like, what I'm curious about, because I know most people don't know this, but you've actually charged clients for health coaching and in the four-figure realm. Would you share that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it wasn't something of obviously that happened overnight. And just because of my own insecurities and my lack of clarity of how to bring that about. So I remember starting out just having a client who I think it was basically like $100 for a month for 3 months. So it was a 3 months package, $300, and I met with them every week.
Oh
So
wow. That's like $20 an hour.
yeah, thank God I didn't report it because with taxes, God, it was less than that. So, but that's one of the things that are coming out of health coaching, like as far as a school and a certification is, that's kind of like where they drive you. That's kind of like what they tell you to put it. All you do a 3 month, a 6 month package. And then at that point, they don't talk about the dollars. At that point, they kind of leave that figure up for your decision to come about and make at that point. So I just thought $300 was a decent amount of money for me to get paid for what I was doing. And that's just really what it was. I kind of thought of it initially as almost a trial kind of thing to see if, okay, well, this is my first few clients. I'm going to see how good I am at this. And it was really a limited mindset in so many different ways because I obviously was able to do that without any issue. I haven't changed what I'm doing in a health coaching practice now that I was doing then, and I'm paying, charging way more money than I did at that point. It's not the same effort is going in, and there was so many different limiting beliefs on my part. And I guess definitely the first thing that comes to mind was whether I was good enough to charge a fair amount and not really knowing what that fair amount was.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm just curious, like, how did you decide that like $20 an hour was a fair amount?
Initially, again, like I didn't even think of it in that way. I almost was thinking of the 300 and not doing the math of
Uh-huh.
how much, how many hours it took to get to 300. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
that really was my first like hiccup. Like 300 sounded kind of reasonable, and to be honest, if I had met with them probably 2 times a week for that much amount of time and money, I wouldn't even have recognized it. It was that brutal to put into that perspective until, like you said, you just do the math, the true math for dollars per hour, and you're like, what am I doing? And that was like my aha moment when I really was getting into a situation. And I'll throw one of the clients under the bus without naming any names, but that was like blood money, man. Like I was really working, and this person was texting me all kinds of
Oh
hours
wow.
a night. It was just like I like every meal they had a question about, and I'm like, this is insane. And I'm not getting any kind of money for for this. So I think that was my big realization that I was not charging enough. And I was giving people too much access. It really was like an eye-opening experience of what an actual coaching program is. And I think those little nuances that aren't discussed in your certification program, you have to unfortunately find out for yourself with a little bit of trial and error, especially because I wasn't reaching out for any mentorship in this space. So I was kind of winging it, just making all those mistakes every single
Yeah.
step of the way.
Yeah, it's so eye-opening. It's interesting. I've taken so many certification courses for different kinds of health coaching, whether it's blood chemistry or being a massage therapist. I mean, each of these are $20,000 in themselves, and there's never any business training. So
Yeah.
you get out, and I'll see about over 60% of people that took the course never do anything because their fate of where they end without working on their money mindset and learning business
Mhm.
is that they go back to getting a job. And I
Yes.
met so many health coaches that are well trained, passionate, would love to help someone, and they're not doing it. They're actually doing the same job that they have been doing forever. And there's just certain things like I never thought about too. Like I say an hour, like $20 an hour, but like you just said, it's not an hour of work. It's not an hour of work. There's the acquiring of the client, there's the initial consult, there's then having the sessions, there's the amount of money it took you. Like your doctor sits with you, but you don't pay for the hour that the doctor sits with you. They don't spend an hour with you, but the 10 minutes.
Right.
You pay for the fact that they went through all this schooling and hopefully continue to educate themselves to a point where the recommendation they make to you is actually good for you. That's actually what you're paying. You're not paying for their time. And health coaches really don't, and I didn't understand this. It's like when I became a massage therapist, I was like, oh, $60 an hour. That's really great. And it's like, oh, well, what about the schooling it took to even get there? So it's not about the time per hour. And I'm sure you've had some aha moments with this. But what I'm just like really curious about with you, and this is a story you shared with me, is yeah, it was like $20 an hour. And where did you get to in terms of, and I don't know if most people know this, but like you actually have a full-time job working for the U.S. government court system.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you have two kids, is that right?
I have two kids. Yes.
Yeah, two kids and a wife, and you and I were talking a little bit about the vacation you just took. Like, so there is this whole area of life that you live in, and the podcast is just one of the things that you do. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think like when I heard that, I went, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and giving me an opportunity to talk about that a bit because I don't really talk about it much yet. So I have a full-time job, like I have all the other family full-time responsibilities as well, and I am still able to do the two podcasts, which are my true passions. That's really where I'm looking forward to like kind of making this like a reality where I can really leverage this to a point where I can do as we're preaching right now. So one of the things that I think amaze me is that it's not that time consuming to do that part of it. I know like who sees the podcast and listens to it weekly might think that, oh wow, I can't believe that this doesn't take that much time, but you just have to put yourself in a system where these things are simple and it's a process and you can just get into a point where I can just crank out or you can just crank out material podcasts without any issues. I do have some support. I did hire a lot of other people who can assist in what I'm doing. But even with that, that's just actually reducing the amount of time that I'm actually involved in the podcast and the production itself. But for the most part, yeah, I'm able to do this by having a job and having a whole bunch of different responsibilities and growing my listenership dramatically over the course of the last couple of years, where I've been able to finally monetize and really get some return on this investment.
Yeah. Yeah, that was incredible when I heard that. And I know you like, oh, it's not that complicated. But like when I look at a podcast, I'm like, oh, he's got graphics. Oh, he's got theme music. Oh, he's actually got content. Oh, he's got guests. Oh, he's planning the episode. Then there's ranking. There's all these things. So it's like for you, you have such genius around it. You don't even realize. But I think that's like part of it is most people probably don't understand what you do for a living for the U.S. court system. So when you told me this story, I went, wow, that is amazing. Like, can you share a little bit about what you do for the U.S. court system? And what I think is one of the most amazing things, like most people don't know, you converted the court system from paper to digital. So like, so like it seems simple to you, but it's like people may not have perspective of your genius. So will you share that with them?
Oh well, no, thank you. I got to scale it back a little bit, just because you said you
We
was.
could be here. We could be here for 10 weeks if you break it down step by step. I know.
I'm gonna have to, but yeah, no, I'll definitely be a little bit more modest. In the New York State court system, we have a division which is a family court area, and we were able to go convert ourselves over to a digital process, which was a great undertaking. Just because, as you know, government does not like change. I mean, we just look at the news and we could see how slow we are to progress in anything that we do that is in the civil service arena. So one of the things that I pride myself, and that's why I'm glad that you brought that story up, is there was an issue. We just had an antiquated system, just like everything about old agencies had a little bit difficult time just getting into the modern world. And I had to really come up with a solution for us to kind of go into the modern world and stop using paper like we've been using for the last 50 years. And that was one of the things that were very resistant, because we just at the time didn't have the technology that really had the potential infrastructure to do this. But it was pretty quick. And actually, I do pride myself on the timing. It took about 6 months to really just get people on board with pilot programs that eventually spurred into a whole process of actually converting the whole Westchester system, and eventually went throughout the state in many forms. So what I was able to do, I think, that wasn't because I was a whiz at technology, is really just kind of convincing people of the direction that they need to go in this space. And it's really amount of, I would say the key thing was to just demonstrate how that change benefits them, because everyone is very scared of change initially. And one of the things that I was really selling at that point was the fact that, listen, your job's going to be easier. I know that you think it might be a difficult transition and nobody likes change, but I guarantee you're going to save XYZ amount of time. And really kind of went to each workstation and each person's particular job function and just show them, listen, this is going to change in the positive for this reason. And you're going to have this much time that you're going to have to do whatever you basically want to do and just really be more productive. And with a little, convincing beyond that, a lot of people were able to actually see it and they jumped on board. We haven't turned back since. And it was a really, really gratifying thing to pull off. And I definitely think that that's one of my biggest accomplishments in my court.
Oh my gosh. That's so massive. Like, you actually said you went like desk to desk to desk. So like, I have no idea, but like, I think about the court system. I think about how convoluted that is. And I only really have a reference for watching, like Better Call Saul, on Netflix, where he's a lawyer and he's got to talk to this person behind a glass window. And how many people, like desks, did you have to go to and sell the idea of, this is going to make your life easier if we implement this? Are you on board? Like, how many people do you think that was in the New York court system?
Oh boy. I mean, it was definitely at that time in the hundreds, right? And they didn't include just the clerks. It had to do with some judges as well, because obviously once you're converting into a digital format, the judges have to be told too that, listen, you're not going to get a paper file anymore. You're not going to write notes on your outside of court jackets and such. It was some things that we had to at that point really get into just a reframing of how you go about business. And we also had like age issues, right? So it's it's not all judges were 25 and ready to rock.
What is this Facebook thing?
Yeah, no, it was interesting. And you know what? We really had to go about it with baby steps in essence, right? So like we would just initially say, okay, we'll have the file outside available for you, but here's the digital one. If you feel uncomfortable, we'll get it. It was almost like treating like OCDs, like it was like that exposure therapy, right? And then you just
therapist and system expert Omar Cumberbatch.
Yeah, so it was an interesting thing, but oh my goodness, I could not even imagine. Nobody there can imagine at this point going back to paper. Like it's like this. just what an antiquated system that we had. But yeah, we were able to pull it off.
Wow. So 6 months, hundreds of people. How many processes do you think like are running through that court system? Because like we talked about the podcast, and I know you've gotten that too. I think you said like 2 hours a week to have this two podcasts running. So how many like systems had to be designed so a court system could get hundreds of people to transition within 6 months? Like how many different processes do you think that was?
Oh boy, I've never actually sat down and thought about it, but man, it could be a tremendous amount. I couldn't even put necessarily a number on it because, like, obviously each part of the process has a process within itself.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, but being able to at least hit it from a global angle, and because you have so many agencies that are involved specifically when you're dealing with the bureaucracy of government, it trickled down as long as at the top it was actually the structure was proper. So as it went into each person's specific workflow, I think that yeah, I could never put a number on it, but it was definitely a tremendous amount.
Too many to count is
Too many
the
to count.
answer.
Yes.
That is your superpower, man. Like your genius. It's like you could take something with too many processes to count, get hundreds of people to implement, and then have something done in 6 months. Like to me, I go, that's the reason why you have two podcasts. And I think last time we talked, you said download wise for was it the health one? You had about 140,000 downloads.
Yeah, we have over
And
140 there.
and for the Health Coach Academy, it's about 60,000.
Yeah,
downloads?
definitely in that ball for the park. Yeah,
Wow.
we combined this over 200,000 downloads between the two podcasts. Easy, yeah.
Wow. So 200,000 downloads doing about 2 hours a week. I mean, the only way you could pull that off, man, is if you were a genius around process and system. And it's clear like you are. It's
Oh
like
man, thank you.
it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And I'm sure people listening to this had no idea. Like, not only you did that for the court system in New York, but you also have built that podcast with a full-time family, full-time job, 2 hours, 200,000 downloads. I mean, I guess one of the things too, like as we're talking about this whole idea of like, okay, making a living as a coach, and you talk about like, yeah, I had these beliefs. Maybe I'm curious, like I know we talked about the highest paid client that you worked with. I'm just wondering, like, would you share how much that was?
Oh yeah, I got into the four-figure range.
Okay.
It's
About
thankfully.
$1,000. And then like that was the case. And I know you're not full-time in health coaching or doing this project yet. What do you think from a mindset perspective has held you back, Omar, from being able to do this kind of work in health full-time?
I think the biggest thing is just the kind of the fear of the unknown. Of course, it's like at this point, working for a government entity, definitely a steady job. It's like you know that you're going to get paid every 2 weeks. You know that you're going to have benefits. You know that you're going to have something that's solid, right? So I think the fear of the unknown is definitely the thing that's always held me back traditionally, and not having that safety net. I speak on this podcast a lot about just not having an entrepreneurial family in any sense of the word. You know, we all kind of had civil service types jobs. So we are, very used to the safety of being employed by another individual or entity. And I think that was definitely one of the biggest mindset shifts that I've had to work on over the course of time. So I think that will probably be the biggest answer for me. And I guess I have definitely money beliefs that of scarcity. We didn't like you. I appreciate you highlighting a little bit of my backstory on our last podcast, but we didn't have a lot of money, So I'm always gonna be in the back of my head had this little kid who was concerned about having actual funds to do anything, had clothes, just getting lunch. If it wasn't like the free lunch, I was probably not gonna have a lunch that day. That it was kind of that world, unless my mom, of course, would have to provide it for me at that point. But it was definitely a mentality of scarcity that around money that I absolutely have had, and that's something that I know that you're just the master of this, and I know that you've always helped your mindset around money to improve. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how you're able to transition and help people with that mindset.
Hmm. Yeah, I just think about your grandma, man, who said, how long did she trek to get the organic food? Because she knew the food was better where she had come
Yeah,
from.
yeah, it was actually, it had to be a couple miles. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple miles. So you probably didn't have great quality food unless your grandma brought it. And I can understand, like, wow, someone is bringing me the good stuff, but I don't have the good stuff if it's up to me. It sounds like that might even be a belief that you have,
Yeah.
because that was your experience in life. And I know, like, you and I have talked about like the opportunities that are available for you when you overcome these money beliefs, and it's interesting because like my dad is a medical doctor, and immigrant family, so not quite the same situation as you because in the way it's like we grew up middle class. My dad joined the Air Force because he didn't have any money to pay for his education, so he worked it off in the Air Force to become a doctor.
Mm.
And then he was very ambitious because he didn't grow up with much. So he was like, I'm going to maximize everything. He had just that immigrant mentality. He had rental properties and he owned his own medical practice. And then eventually the stress and the payoff of it wasn't worth it to him. So he went back to working for larger hospitals and even for Microsoft and just focusing on diversifying his income. But it's kind of given me a perspective. And like for me, I hit my own money stuff going on this entrepreneur journey. So I started having to actually learn how to be a health coach at 17. And man, I remember the first time I sat there, just a 17-year-old kid doing his internship at this little dinky health club, and they give you your practice client, and the guy looks at me and he's doing curls and he goes, "Am I doing this right?" And I just like, I don't even know what to say because his elbow's just bending. I'm just like, I hope. That was really my experience and confidence starting out. I had no idea what was going on. And it's incredible to think, like, since then, learning how to handle my money beliefs and handle the process of growth has allowed me not only to become a trainer and own a gym and have a training team, but also become a therapist and then help people in emotional health coaching, healing, and then become a business coach. And that's only available to me because I had money stuff show up all the time. And it's the way that I responded to that money stuff. There's a mindset perspective, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but the relationship with money is so important because I'm like, like you, like your ability to have systems, your ability to share that gift, your ability to help people move through something like super simple in terms of execution, whether it's a podcast that only takes 2 hours to actually have with 200,000 listeners, or somebody lose. I remember that story you shared with that one lady who you just helped her focus on the sugar. How much weight did she lose?
Oh, she was lost to 60 pounds. Yeah,
Yeah, 60 pounds from identifying this super effective process. And it's like all of the evolution of who we can become. Like for me, it was really like, oh my gosh, like the fact that I even help people with sales and business coaching, it's mind blowing to me because 17 years ago, that was my biggest problem. But it only came from actually really dealing with my money scarcity and my scarcity in myself. It's really the beliefs that I'm not going to be okay. And one of the reasons I really love sharing that and helping health coaches is because it allows them to access the next level of how they really want to help people. I have clients like myself. Sometimes they're in a different place. So I have massage therapists that want to become personal trainers, and now they have massage therapists and personal training practices. I have physical therapists that wanted to get out of the system that are now physical therapists doing techniques that are outside of physical therapy and have doctorates in pain management. The clients that I get to work, I have nurse practitioners that are learning functional medicine. It's like, it's so cool. And they want to learn to help people with emotional health coaching. It's so cool that there's no limitation for me on who you can become and how you can serve your client if you're really willing to deal with your own money scarcity, if you're really willing to deal with the beliefs you have about your limitations and the stories you have around it. Um, I think anyone listening to this, like, you're already ahead. You're several steps ahead of where you started because you realize it's really a belief in yourself that is lacking. And it's also really understanding the biggest enemy of scarcity is the trauma we have. around growing up around that.
No, no, absolutely. So if you have a second, I'd love to just touch on the fact of all the ways that, money has unlocked so many different opportunities for you. I know that you just came from a conference that a little pricey, but of course, well worth it. And it's just giving you an opportunity to have another thing in the toolkit that you're going to help other people in your business with what you've learned. So just talk about a little bit about those opportunities that you've been able to have just because you have really mastered this money mindset.
Yeah. I tell you, it's like my life is a gift of grace. There's a form of therapy I do that really involves the brain and viruses and immunology and all these things. It's not an inexpensive master's to go to. So it's, overall it's going to cost you about $5,000 for the weekend. And what is really interesting to see is I go to this course every year, and I'll see some people be like, yeah, I'm not going to come next year. I'm going to go every other year because $5,000 is a lot of money. And I really feel for them. I get it. And I also see what happens when they skip a year and they come the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, I didn't have the money to go. And so we had all these people that were trying to learn the curriculum and they could not, because this year's curriculum was a restructuring and improvement of last year's curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So they missed last year. So they had no idea what anyone was talking about for about 2 days.
Oh, man.
And it was like, oh my gosh. And it's like, why did you skip? Oh, well, I didn't make that money in my practice, or it seemed like a lot of money to me. And so then they had this terrible experience trying to learn it, trying to practice it, trying to come home and bring that back to their clients, because they wouldn't give themselves the gift of investing in themselves and making that an easier process. And then, of course, it creates all this doubt about whether, is this practice working for me? Can I really do this? Is this really helping anyone? What's wrong with me that I can't do this? Why am I not like this person? And it's all of those are scarcity questions. They're all scarcity. It's like, I'm lacking. That's what it is. And it really comes from that first lack, which is, I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I don't have enough money. And so I can't invest in this. And that just continues their cycle of scarcity. And the most amazing thing for me about just the opportunity that we connected about briefly is the head of that organization and I were talking, and he said, yeah, that's a massive problem, that people are scarce in themselves. They don't have the confidence. They need the emotional development. And he said, let's do a joint venture together where you actually take people that go through the course and you help them create successful practices so they can get the training they need. So when it's time to go to masters and it's 5,000, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally ready for it. I can give myself this opportunity to learn. And I'm actually making that money. I'm taking care of myself. I'm not going to this seminar just sweating the whole time, worried if I can eat my next meal, catch my next lift, if I'm going to skip next year. Really coming from a place of abundance in themselves. So that was an opportunity that came from me. But another opportunity that's just really interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen that documentary on Netflix called I Am Not Your Guru by Tony Robbins. It's Tony Robbins' documentary. It's really interesting. What was interesting about it for me is when I was studying massage therapy, I got this beautiful gift of being led. And long story short, I was a personal trainer doing massage therapy. I was doing kettlebell training. So I went this kettlebell cert, and this guy's like, oh yeah, you're a massage therapist? Me too. And he's like, hold on, lay down. Let me check all this stuff on you. And he starts measuring my cranial bones. Okay. Like, so my face bones. And I'm like, oh, he's measuring my face bones. And he's like, yeah, you got this thing going on where your head is rotated this way. And I was like, I didn't know you could even measure face bones. And he's like, yeah, there's this form of therapy. So I'm like, well, tell me what it is. I want to go learn it, because I'm like, yes, I definitely need to learn more. That's always, let me learn more and then I'll be great. Let me learn more and then I'll be great. So this is me in my 20s, right? Just on this endless loop and this endless cycle. And I'm sure some people have been there before. So I have a lot of empathy for being there. And so I go to this seminar. I'm learning how to measure cranial bones, do all this thing. And this guy refers me to his instructor. Now, it's a completely different modality. And he's like, you got to meet these guys, man. He's like, you got to go. He's like, they treat Tony Robbins. And I went, oh, okay, that's interesting. Now, I just knew the name Tony Robbins. I didn't really know anything about Tony Robbins. So I'm just like, all right, they treat someone. I meet this guy. I have no idea. Well, that guy ends up becoming my mentor for about half a decade. And as a result of that, because he is in Tony Robbins' circle and he treats Tony Robbins, he does this at a very high level. Tony actually flies him to these events. So if you watch that Netflix documentary and Tony is up all day for 12 hours teaching, well, he actually flies in these practitioners that do what I do to the event, and they treat him. And he basically sleeps while they treat him and then gets up, and then he goes and he does his life-changing work for 12 hours. And so I end up getting to go to Tony Robbins' event as a guest of him and Sage. And I'm not investing in it, and I get to go. And I'm like, wow, I'm a guest of Tony Robbins right now. It's kind of mind-blowing. I'm this young 20-year-old kid. I just met this guy in a bar after doing a massage therapy training for measuring cranial bones. It's like I was led with all this grace, all these opportunities opened up for me. And, that technique has been such a blessing for people. I have 2 full frames in my office of thank you cards from people because I do that technique of how it's healed their body. And I can say that, like, the effort of investing in that technique, it's about like 12 classes plus mastery class. So you're looking probably at about $20,000 to $30,000 to learn that technique easily, not including your time. That one technique. And the only reason I'm able to have the experience and help the people that I have is because I really overcame and worked through my money scarcity and learned the skill sets to be able to invest in these trainings and to really get myself to a point where I can learn all the things that the universe is really bringing to me, or God is bringing to me, about what my clients need. Like, is this a client that needs to learn more about developing a spiritual connection with themselves and being at peace in themselves? Is this a client that needs to learn more about how their experience taking certain things has created a bad response in their body? Now they're adjusting for it and they're in pain because the adjustment is never ending. Or is this a person that has been in an injury and is now stuck in tension and it needs someone to actually manipulate them so the tension can go away? Is this someone who is in unhealthy relationships outside of their sessions and they keep on being so damaged by that experience that their intestinal stem cells die? And the only reason I know all these different things and can look for them and connect them is because I've been able to invest in these trainings because of my work and my relationship with money. So, that's why I'm like, not only is it such a huge deal for health coaches to be able to do this full time so they can really have a practice and support people and being an advocate for their health, but it's also for them. I never would have believed 17 years ago that I could do all these things, be all these things. I have so many clients that are physicians or doctors. I have doctors tell me all the time when they find out the training I've done, they go, you're like 10 doctors in one. And I'm really just a kid who is a personal trainer and massage therapist. But I was able to invest in the education and create the time. If I had a practice where I was charging $20 an hour, I wouldn't have the time to do mentorships every week with different instructors. I have like 3 mentors a week just for health. I have one for, let's say, blood chemistry. I started working with a new one for gait. So like how people walk and the way the body rotates and whether there's a old injury that's making them walk incorrectly. So they keep hurting themselves. I have a mentor for respiratory mechanics. So the way the pelvis and the ribs move when people breathe and how you have to bring balance back to that, or they have issues downstream in their joints. And man, if I was stuck doing sessions for $20 an hour, there's no way I'd be able to spend hours learning that or spend time, invest my time training my team and making more of an impact. And I know that's something you and I talked about. Like, one of the reasons why you're really driven to take the audience that you have and really move that into really serving more health coaches. Will you just share about that?
Yeah, no, listen, it's one of those things. When I created this show, I looked at myself and saw what I lacked and what I needed. And it was kind of like a selfish endeavor where I was going through this, where it's like, how could I make this happen? How could I go from full-time work into completely going 100% into this health coach business where my true passion is? And then, like, to me, you're an inspiration for that, because you could see exactly, not only are you able to be well compensated, but you just are kind of reinvesting. One thing health coaches probably are listening to you and all the stuff that we love us some certifications. We love to continuously learn.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think that I'm really excited about, just continuing my journey so I can be at a point where I can still go down that rabbit hole a little bit. I feel like one of the things with the podcast that I'm able to do is continuously learn, find new modalities, things that you talk about, I write down, and I'm gonna take a look into that. So
Gonna see you at the next certification course.
Yeah, but like you said, one of the things that is most important about the money mindset is just having the ability to have the time, and then also the ability to invest in yourself, which is something that I know that is really important to me. Obviously, it's important to you, and you can just see it with you as an example. It bears that fruit where you're able to just continuously be able to charge appropriately, get high ticket clients. It's really amazing what you've done. So I think I got to give you a lot of kudos there. So that's kind of where I feel that we merge in that respect as well.
Yeah. Well, I really resonate with you, man. What you're doing in terms of sharing that knowledge to people that haven't gotten to that level yet is so powerful. Man, before I quote was making any money as a trainer, just barely enough to cover the gas, I listened to podcasts. I listened to Strength Coach podcasts, listened to every podcast they could. And it was like I got the wisdom of these people that had come before that were where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm here, I remember like getting my first mentor to train me. He said, it's amazing because you're really young, but because of the internet and the podcast you've listened to, it's like you have 15 years of experience, even though you only have 4.
Yeah.
And I thought about it and I went, it's the podcast I've been listening to every day.
Yeah. No, like you have many mentors every time you listen to a podcast. That it is beautiful. It's a great thing. That's why I love the medium. I think that no matter what I do at any point, I'm still going to have a podcast where I'm have guests and continuously learn on a daily basis and a weekly basis, as far as even if I'm hosting the show. But it's the greatest medium to connect with so many different people in the interest and fields that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. It's a huge gift you're doing, man. And I always tell you, whenever you want, I can bring on some of the instructors that have trained me, and I know you would get a lovely deep dive on those kind of things. So we just have to coordinate their time schedules because they're like in Australia, so.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
It's going to be our 4 a.m.
Hey, listen, you know me, I'm an early bird. So listen, Isaac, thank you so much for doing this again. I think this is going to be a kind of a regular thing because the feedback that we get off our episodes has been fantastic. I've had a lot of interesting DMs and messages, and just to really appreciate how we've been vibing together. So thanks so much for doing this again today.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on, Omar.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.